Welcome back to Ink and Insights, the place where literature comes alive through ideas, history, and deep reflection. Today we explore a book that changed the course of English poetry forever, Lyrical Ballads. Published in 1798 by two remarkable poets, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. This collection marked the beginning of a literary movement. Before this book appeared, poetry was often formal, intellectual, and distant from everyday life. But Lyrical Ballads introduced something revolutionary: poetry about ordinary people, written in simple language, inspired by nature and human emotion. In many ways, this collection laid the foundation for the movement known as Romanticism. So today we'll explore why Lyrical Ballads was revolutionary, the collaboration between Wordsworth and Coleridge, key poems from the collection, and how this book reshaped English literature forever. To understand why Lyrical Ballads was so important, we need to look at the literary environment before it appeared. During the 18th century, poetry was dominated by formal structure and classical ideals. Writers valued logic, order, and strict poetic rules. Poets often imitated ancient Greek and Roman styles, focusing on elegance and intellectual themes rather than emotional experience. Nature was often described in artificial or decorative ways, and most poems were written for educated, elite audiences. Wordsworth and Coleridge believed poetry had become too distant from real human life. They wanted to bring poetry back to emotion, imagination, and the natural world. This idea became the foundation of their revolutionary collaboration. The partnership between William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge is one of the most famous collaborations in literary history. Although they had different personalities and styles, they shared a deep passion for poetry and philosophy. They decided to create a collection that would challenge traditional poetic conventions. Their plan was simple but powerful. Coleridge would write poems that explored the supernatural and mysterious while making them feel believable. Wordsworth would write poems about ordinary life, but present them in a way that revealed deeper beauty and emotional meaning. Together, they aimed to awaken readers' imagination. And the result of this collaboration was the publication of Lyrical Ballads in 1798. One of the most revolutionary ideas in Lyrical Ballads was the use of simple, everyday language. Wordsworth believed poetry should speak in the language of ordinary people. In the preface to a later edition of the book, he famously wrote, "Poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings." This statement became one of the defining principles of Romantic poetry. Instead of focusing on artificial elegance, Wordsworth believed poetry should arise from genuine emotion and deep reflection. He often wrote about rural life, believing that people living close to nature experienced emotions more purely than those in crowded cities. This idea transformed poetry from something formal and elite into something personal and emotional. While Wordsworth focused on everyday life, Coleridge explored the mysterious and supernatural side of imagination. His most famous contribution to Lyrical Ballads is the haunting poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This long narrative poem tells the story of a sailor who commits a terrible crime by killing an albatross, a bird believed to bring good luck. As punishment, the mariner and his crew face supernatural forces, guilt, and spiritual suffering. One of the most memorable lines from the poem is, "Water, water, everywhere, nor any drop to drink." Through powerful imagery and symbolism, Coleridge created a story that explores sin, guilt, redemption, and humanity's relationship with nature. The poem shows how imagination and moral reflection can combine to create unforgettable literature. Wordsworth's poems in Lyrical Ballads often focus on simple human experiences. Instead of kings or heroic warriors, he wrote about shepherds, children, farmers, and travelers. For example, poems like We Are Seven and lines written in early spring explore themes of innocence, nature, and emotional connection. In these poems, Wordsworth reveals how profound meaning can exist in ordinary moments. Nature plays a central role in his poetry. For Wordsworth, nature was not just scenery. It was a spiritual force that shapes the human mind and emotions. He believed that spending time in nature helps people reconnect with their inner selves. This idea became a central theme of Romantic literature. In 1800, Wordsworth added a famous preface to a new edition of Lyrical Ballads. This preface is often considered the manifesto of Romantic poetry. In it, Wordsworth explains his poetic philosophy. He argues that poetry should focus on common life, use simple language, express genuine emotion, and celebrate the beauty of nature. This philosophy directly challenged the dominant literary ideas of the previous century. As a result, lyrical ballads became a turning point in literary history. It marked the beginning of Romanticism, a movement that emphasized imagination, emotion, and individuality. This movement would influence many later writers, including Percy Bysshe Shelley, John Keats, and Lord Byron. The influence of lyrical ballads continues even today. It changed how poets think about language, emotion, and creativity. Instead of writing for elite audiences, poetry became a form of personal expression, accessible to everyone. The book also helped establish the idea that nature and imagination are essential sources of artistic inspiration. Modern poetry still reflects many of the ideas introduced by Wordsworth and Coleridge more than 2 centuries ago. Their collaboration reminds us that literature can evolve when writers dare to challenge tradition. In the end, Lyrical Ballads was more than just a poetry collection. It was a literary revolution. Through their groundbreaking ideas, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge transformed poetry into something deeply emotional, imaginative, and connected to everyday life. Their work opened the door to the Romantic movement and inspired generations of writers. And today, their words still invite us to look at the world with fresh imagination. If you enjoyed this journey into literary history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Ink and Insights for more explorations. And here's a question for you. Do you prefer poetry that focuses on imagination and emotion, or poetry that follows strict classical rules? Share your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep reading, keep thinking, and keep exploring.